Monopoly, Sorry, Clue. All household names that can conjure up certain childhood memories or trigger childhood traumas. Today on The Games We Play, we'll be taking a deep dive into the world of board games and all it has to offer. We'll look at the history, cultural impact, social engagement, and creation of board games. Plus, we have a local game reviewer, Jeremy Howard, joining us later to review games that you can try. All this and more on The Games We Play. Hello and welcome. I'm your host and guide, Tiffany Trusmer. My love of board games started early on with games like Sorry and Trouble and has continued on today with games like Mysterium and Betrayal in the House on the Hill. I'm very excited to be with you and talking about one of my favorite pastimes. But board games aren't just all fun and games. They also teach us about our culture and society as a whole.
I mean, every culture has games.
Egypt, people use a game called Senet as a religious tool. It was a way to see into the afterlife and communicate with the dead.
Chutes and Ladders, which today is generally considered to be for a younger crowd. In India, this was actually something that was designed to foment religious values. Board games and games in general are interesting cultural barometers in the kinds of things that we value. But what we can do is take a look at how games have changed over the past year, over the past 5 years, 10 years.
Board games have been increasing in popularity for the last few decades. And before the pandemic, it was hypothesized by researchers that that was going to continue to increase.
Very different vibe board gaming now. It's a much more friendly kind of atmosphere. And I think that reflects a change in society.
Who knew you could communicate to the dead through board games? I guess that's why they call it the game of life. One of my favorite things about playing games is spending time with others. There's nothing actually quite like destroying someone in a game and seeing the hope leave their eyes. What good times. But in all seriousness, playing board games is a great way to spend time with loved ones and maybe even meet some new people.
What are public play spaces? Any place where people are playing games that other people who are not playing can observe them.
My favorite aspect of our business, to be honest, is creating new players. The unique service that we offer here is that we teach every single one of our games for free. What interest do you have, and try to match you with that particular game. I do a demo for you, and we will find that game that you enjoy.
So a board game cafe should have board games, obviously, that people can come in and play. It should have food and drinks, hopefully, that are really good, and it should also have staff to teach the games. When people come into a board game cafe, they should expect to be seated and get a couple recommendations on different games that they might like to play. After they've chosen one, we'll set the other ones off to the side. We'll teach them the game they chose pretty quickly, and we'll get them some food and drinks, all that other good stuff. Hopefully they'll have a good time. My only recommendation would be keep an open mind. Just be ready to play something, and whatever gravitates to you, whatever stands out, go with that, and I'm sure you'll have a really good time. Our goal in creating Bonus Round was trying to create a more inclusive gaming environment. A lot of traditional board gaming spaces weren't maybe the most welcoming places. They weren't making people feel included. Just a lot of college-age dudes playing board games and maybe not being so welcoming to everybody else. One of our mottos is there's a game for everybody, and I think we've done a pretty good job at finding them for people.
Play brings us together as a community, and so when we play publicly, we can broaden our community. So what you find is people who understand what it is to be really different. It's just really chock full of people who had to struggle with social interaction in one form or another. And what that means is they're pretty cool.
I think that the fact that we have these places where it's just like, hey, if you're socially anxious, if you don't really like kind of free flow interaction at like parties or things like that, come down to your local board game store.
Games have helped me get to know people through going to local game stores and making new friends there while we play games, sharing the games you like and don't like, and things like that.
Board game stores provide a place for people to come together in a variety of ways, such as just meeting new people, making new friends, and also that learning curve. It's always fun to pick up a board game that you've never tried before and enjoy a new experience with each other.
When I first moved to the Franklin area, I didn't really have a lot of friends in this area. So checked out a local board game store that said they had open gaming on Saturday, and went in and talked to the friendly lady behind the counter, asked her if there was any groups hanging around that might be willing to take in another player. And she introduced me to a group of people that I've been friends with ever since for the past 3 years.
Board games, you get to spend quality time with each other. You're hopefully not glued to your phone, and you're just enjoying each other's company.
And human beings do strive to make that connection. And so board games are a form of that connection.
Future of board gaming. I wish I could tell you what it was. I don't have a crystal ball and all, but hopefully board game cafes are a big part of that future, and I think they are. We're opening board games to a whole new audience, and there's all kinds of people walking through our doors who've never played any modern board games. The last thing they played was Monopoly 5 years ago on Thanksgiving with their family. There's all kinds of great ways to get into board game, whether it's at a board game cafe, at a board game store, at home, just picking something up and bringing it home and playing with your friends, or going to convention. There's all these ways out there of getting into the hobby, and I would say give it a chance.
And I would also advise, go to your game store nearby. Most of them, even if they're not open for gaming, they are open, and talk to the person behind the counter.
We can definitely show you in the right direction, and even sit down and do a demo if you want.
Well, I, for one, am looking forward to checking out game night at my local game store. Whether you love it or hate it, Monopoly is a tabletop classic. It was the original Rage Quit game. I know personally I've never been able to make it from start to finish without somebody storming out of the room. But have you ever wondered about the history of this iconic board game? Well, wonder no more. Here is a brief history of the game of Monopoly.
For instance, if you've ever played Monopoly and were kind of just very frustrated with how the game functioned and what position it puts you in comparison to your friends and family, well, that's actually kind of in line with the original core of the game.
Monopoly is an iconic game that many people have played, but the advent of Monopoly shifted the perception of board games.
Monopoly addressed adult themes. It was about making money, building houses, owning mortgages. It was a quite radical change.
The game was originally called the Landlord's Game and was invented by a woman by the name of Elizabeth McGee, whose purpose in creating the game was educational. But through the years, the purpose of the game changed.
This was the creation of an ardent socialist who wanted to create a game that taught lessons to the people playing the game.
During the Great Depression, people were excited to play a game that could make them feel wealthy.
You have this board game come out, and it's hugely popular, and it's all about money. A time where people are scraping pennies together. It's a game where you can wave huge wads of paper notes around.
In a manner similar to Monopoly itself, McGee was gypped out of her game, and the original purpose was lost.
Due to some rather shady dealings, this game was stolen from this woman and taken and turned into the game of Monopoly, where they took the moral lesson of owning land, charging people rent for it, is fundamentally bad, and kind of made it the whole point of the game and lauding it as a central mechanism.
Because essentially, if you play Monopoly and you don't own any property, you're going to end up destitute and bankrupt.
Monopoly as a game marks the end of an era. It marks the end of games being passed from person to person in an informal manner, allowing for house rules.
No one really owned the games. People passed them around to each other and they changed the rules as they went. It's just like folk music.
And so, Monopoly endures as a cultural classic.
Although Monopoly is a classic board game, there are always new games in the works. Maybe the pandemic has you itching to try a new hobby. Why not try board game creation? Here, a few local game creators share their tips on their design process.
So my name is Dan Bullock. I'm a game designer from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. First one, Bowie, was a game that I created where each player plays a different persona of David Bowie in the 1970s, and you try to keep him alive through the entirety of the 1970s. No Motherland Without is a historical game about North Korea. One of the more recent designs that I've been working on, In the Shadows, is actually about the French resistance during World War II, during the Nazi occupation. One of the other designs that I've been working on more recently is 1979, Revolution in Iran, and that highlights the tensions between two different factions within Iran. I was inspired to create games because I felt like sometimes I would be able to trick my friends into playing things that I would make. I had a captive audience, but also it was just an interest, especially for historical games, in trying to find a way to teach about some of these subjects or learn more about these subjects. And I felt like there was a good opportunity within a board game to model kind of the broad strokes of some of these events and give them a sense of place.
My name is Jason McDowell, and I created the game On the Rivet, the Race for the Champions Stripes. On the Rivet is a card-driven racing strategy game where you are moving groups of racers that include your own racers as well as your opponents. The inspiration behind the game is that I like bikes and I like board games, and I'm also a designer. I played a different game that was related to this one that was a car racing game. There was some stuff that I wanted to change about it, and I said, oh, this could be perfect for bikes.
My name is Peter Ferry, and I am the game designer, one of two co-creators of the game Factions Battlegrounds.
Hello, my name is Jason Creighton, and I am one of the co-creators of Factions Battlegrounds and also the creative director for the project.
Factions Battlegrounds is a 2 to 4 player tactical board game in which players take on the role of generals.
Factions Battlegrounds is all about choice as a player, so each player will construct their own battleground on a grid using tiles that they'll place down to actually construct the field of play. Also, when we saw the genre, we realized it was lacking something that was really important, and that was a level of representation that we believed didn't exist.
The steps I take when I'm creating a game probably begin with research. I figure out what subject I would want to make a game about, and then I do some reading on it. Basically, what would the game be about, and what would people be doing when they'd be playing this game? Once I've identified those things, a lot of your huge design questions are already kind of answered.
One thing we had to do as game designers was to play games, and not only our game, but other games, just to really get used to just the flow of a game.
And then after that, it's a lot of playtesting, and you just take it to a bunch of different groups of people, and you just have them play it and break it, have them help you understand where it's wrong.
Then once we had the core rules down, we jumped to kind of the graphic design phase, which meant we wanted to make the cards bring out the rules in the best and easiest way possible.
And then finally, it'd be a matter of trying to figure out who you would market that game to, or which publishers might be interested in publishing that type of a game. The process of trying to get a game published is best described as sort of a sales pitch for each individual game, based on those folks in the industry that you know are looking to publish certain types of games.
So the great thing about doing your game on Kickstarter is that you are in charge, really. I mean, you have kind of complete control over what you want your game to look like.
Promoting the game, Instagram was a huge avenue and platform for us. So we were able to have people kind of see the game, the process along the course of months. there are people who are literally going to be able to play a game, later this year from something that started when we were children, and now we're actually seeing that into fruition. But also the fact that we're putting something into the world that never existed in this way before. Just the idea of creating a game that has this level of cultural representation, and this type of mythologies and folklores that I feel like we haven't really seen in a board game before.
My advice for creating your own board game is to just grab some cereal boxes and some paper and start cutting stuff out and pasting it together, and you can make your own game really quickly and really easily.
Find people with a skill set that can complement yours.
Be patient with yourself. You're not going to get everything right away.
Start with a really small project that you can see all the way to the end.
Board game creation is such a unique art form. It allows for players to engage with your art and play something you've created. But there are so many games out there, it can be overwhelming to decide which board game to try. I'm joined now by game reviewer Jeremy Howard, and he is going to share with us some games that he thinks are enjoyable and entertaining for both diehard and casual gamers. Jeremy is a YouTuber that has collaborated with game reviewer channels such as Man vs. Meeple and Dice Tower. Well, hi Jeremy, how are you doing?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for having me to talk about board games.
Thank you for coming on. What did you bring?
So, the first one I have here is Parks by Keymaster Games. It's a collaboration with 59 Parks, which is a illustration company that does these pictures of these parks. Beautiful, beautiful design. But let's go ahead and get through it. Like I said, 1 to 5 players, and you are taking the roles of 2 hikers, traveling across different areas and things like that, taking pictures of the park, where you're going on your journey. What you'll be doing on your turn is really basically going as far as you want or as close as you want to gather resources from the spots. And what you'll do is you'll grab what's there, and then you'll pull this off. This game is played over a year, which is 4 seasons and 4 rounds. The board will progressively get longer as the game goes along, and these will be shuffled in here, making the paths a little bit longer. But the cool part is that players are kind of competing to block spots. What they'll be doing is they'll be gathering these beautiful wood pieces, by the way, and they'll be gathering things along the way so they can complete these parks. But along the way, you'll also have other things, like maybe you pick up these beautiful animals, and there's a bat, a turtle. We have these, what is this, like maybe a dolphin or a whale? Whale, maybe a whale.
We'll go with whale.
Whatever, right? So you'll be going along these spots here, gathering stuff, and then you'll also be able to use your canteen, which is another little strategy there, and you'll be able to put water on there and gain that resource, so you'll add that resource to your pool. You'll also be able to take pictures with your camera tokens. You have those, and they're worth points at the end of the game. You can also block your opponent from coming in a spot, so I can't go in this spot, but if I use this campfire token, I can flip it over and I can share the same spot. So there's a little bit of a race, but also you don't want to go too far, because maybe you don't want to go too far. But you want to prevent your opponent from getting where they want to go and pick up the most resources. And eventually, one of the players will decide to go to one of these spots. And each round, the first person who gets there will have a choice to reserve one of these park cards, or they'll be able to buy some gear, or the most important part is to pay for parks. You have these different requirements to get these parks. So for example, this one right here would be 3 of these and 2 water, and then I could have this park. I actually get this as a bonus, and then I would have this park. And this is a set collection thing. At the beginning of the year, you'll get, beginning of the season or 4 seasons, you'll get a goal, and then you'll fulfill those goals. And you're trying to do that before the end of the year so you can score more points than the card says. The whole idea here is this is a really family-friendly game. It also goes to casual casual gamers as well, so you can play this at a game night. As a matter of fact, this game has a lot of range. You can even play it by yourself. So
you can play it by yourself.
So even in a pandemic time, a person like myself sometimes I like to play a game by myself, and I have that option. But also, this plays up to 5 players, so this is also not just for like a small family, it's for a gathering. And it plays really fine. As a matter of fact, the strategy gets a little crazy even with longer paths because you're blocking out so many spots. And that may be something that people have a challenge with, but since you can pull this fire token and flip it over, this fireplace token, you can share spots. So there's not always a deterrent for what you want to do. I didn't even talk about the gear you can buy that helps you get different advantages. The canteens have different stuff. There's events that happen during each season. There's a lot going on, or a little as you want. So I just think this game gives you so much to play with. And of course, it's easy on the eyes. Has some of the most quality components I know of.
I love that the tokens are wood instead of plastic.
Yeah, yeah, I know. It's very, very nice, and they're very specific. The sunshine, water, these etched out trees. There's just so much to do here. I love this game.
Awesome. So what would the age range be for this game?
Oh, an 8-year-old could play this, but also, you know, like I said, it's going to be very family friendly and go beyond that. So make sure your 8-year-old is ready to go.
Perfect. So you said you brought another game with you too. So what is the name of the other game?
This one is called Fun Fair. It's by Good Games Publishing. This is a family type game. You can go ahead and grab this for me. All right. This is a family game where you're going to be running parks. Okay, so you're going to be running parks. It's a competitive game. It's for 2 to 4 players, and what you're trying to do, like I said, you're running a park. You'll have your own little park that you're making up. You can have up to 5 slots, and what you're doing is you have a city event. And look at this little roller coaster thing here. We'll have a city event, and this is a response to a game called Unfair. And Unfair was a little bit more of a kind of mean game is what we call it, mean
So it went from unfair to fun fair.
Yeah, so we're going to Fun Fair, which is a lighter affair, and it takes like an hour versus Unfair, which is a very long game. So the events, the city events in this game are a lot lighter and friendlier. You can even give people coins, money for helping them in some senses. But what you're ultimately doing is taking 3 actions per round and sometimes a 4th. And those actions really include expanding your park. You'll have your park here, you'll have some employees if you choose to, but you're trying to build attractions, you're trying to build roller coasters, you're trying to build sideshows and things like that. And either from your hand, the market right here, or from your hand, you'll build cards. So I'm just going to build one right here live. What is this one here? It's $6. So we'll build that for $6. We'll pay it out. We have all the money in the world, right? We're just on TV. We can do whatever we want. So what we're doing is we're doing that, or we can buy from here. So we would buy, let's say that was my second action is going to be to add to this attraction. Now what's happening is these stars will attract guests. So then when we get to the end, we'll get more guests and we'll get a bunch of money. And I'm not going to count that live because that'd be long and weird. So what we'll do is we'll just put that stuff over here and we'll say we got a lot of money in between rounds, and that will help us buy stuff during the game. There is also blueprints that will give you bonuses for having certain types of rides, even having guest services, because you got to please your guests. They need to know they can hang out.
Not everyone can do roller coasters.
Right. Maybe you want to have some air conditioning on before you get to the roller coaster ride. Those types of things like that. Oh, it says it doesn't go on the ride, but we're just going to go with that. And then what we're doing is we're adding these icons to it, and we're even changing themes. Let's see. This was a pirate. It has high quality, it's a jungle, and it's also got fairy tale and guest services with a kiosk.
Ooh.
So we have this diversified park here, and also at the end of the game, we're going to score how high these are. It's going to give a little bit of multiplier based on how high your park goes.
So is there a limit to how many things you can add
No.
to your ride?
As a matter of fact, you want to have as many as possible. 17 is the highest you
Oh,
can
wow,
go.
that's a lot.
And more than likely, you're not going to have that. Each player has a super attraction they can build, which has more icons on it. And these gift services also give like little combo points for having specific attractions on here. So this might be a little bit more of a complicated game, but it is definitely a very attractive game that younger players can get into. And once again, a little bit more competitive. And I would say this one kind of scales a little bit higher for more competitive people.
Okay.
But also people who want a lighter affair than Unfair. I'm just going to keep saying that, by the way.
So you mentioned that this one's a little bit more collaborative. How would you work together with somebody who's also playing this with you?
No. You want to build your own awesome
okay.
park. Yeah, you want to build your own awesome tableau. You stay over there. We're still playing a park here. We're competitive parks. There's no damaging other parks like Unfair. That's the thing. You can sabotage other people's stuff. You just want to complete your goals. People will leave you alone. We may be racing for these goals here, which will be one in each game. But we're also trying to complete these. That's one of the things you're up against. If you can't complete at least the top one, you will lose 10 points at the end of the game. So you just want to have the most awesome park. Very attractive to everybody else. I forgot to say there's card combos and things like that when you buy them. And you can have some silly themes, robots, pirates, fairy tales, and stuff like that. So Yeah, just a really, really fun experience.
What is your favorite theme that you think you found in this game?
Oh, the robots.
The robots?
The robots do cool stuff. They allow you to get other cards automatically and stuff like that. That's what I like. They kind of spread you out a little bit. I believe the pirates let you draw more cards. I can't remember. I'm too busy having fun. All right?
Pirates, robots, everything sounds amazing. And thank you so much, Jeremy. These look absolutely just incredible to play. They look beautiful. The artwork is fantastic.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you so much. And then we got this little roller coaster.
I love it. These look like so much fun, and I know that I'm going to be playing these with my friends as soon as possible. Thank you all for joining us today. I hope you've been edified, enriched, and engaged, and maybe had some fun along the way. Now, I've got to go play some board games, so I'm your host, Tiffany Tresmer, reminding you, don't forget to play.